You didn't just wake up one day feeling heavy for no reason. The grief you carry began long before you were born. It moves through bloodlines, through dreams, through silence, waiting for one soul brave enough to end it. That soul is you. What you are about to hear is not coincidence. It is not algorithm, chance, or accident. Something older than time itself has drawn you here, not for entertainment, but for remembrance. Within you lies a story that did not begin with you. It runs deeper than your name, older than your first breath. It is the pulse of ancestors whose pain still echoes in your bones, whose choices shape the corridors of your psyche. You may not know their faces, but you have lived their silence. You may never have heard their cries, yet they still vibrate beneath your calm. Carl Jung once said that we are not only individuals, but also vessels of collective memory. What calls you here is that memory, the unfinished song of your lineage, searching for someone conscious enough to complete it. Perhaps you've felt it before, a subtle ache that wakes you at night, an inexplicable longing, a fatigue that feels older than your body. You sense that the life you live is not entirely yours, that your emotions carry voices beyond your own, the anxiety that strikes without cause, the sadness that descends uninvited, the self-doubt that feels hereditary. These are not flaws, they are inheritances. Every family carries an unconscious myth. Some call it fate, others call it curse, but Jung called it the collective shadow, the unhealed story that each generation repeats until one member decides to end it consciously. That member is called the cycle closer, and if you are listening now, it may be you. You didn't come to continue the story. You came to bring it to completion. Not to erase your lineage, but to redeem it. You came to break patterns, not through anger, but through awareness. Not by running away, but by seeing clearly. This is the beginning of awakening. Not the glamorous kind sung about in books or on screens, but the quiet, trembling realization that life has placed you at a sacred intersection. Behind you stretch the ghosts of all that was unresolved. Before you lies the possibility of what has never been lived. And the question is whispered through the marrow of your being. Will you carry it forward, or will you bring it to rest? You feel it, the weight of something ancient pressing for release. It isn't punishment, it's permission. Permission to transform what has been merely survived into what can finally be understood. You were never just born, you were summoned. Summoned to make conscious what generations before could only endure. Summoned to turn pain into presence, silence into truth, inheritance into initiation. And by the end of this journey, you may begin to see that your life is not random, it is archetypal. The stage is set, the script is ancient, and the actor has finally awakened. Your soul said yes to something timeless, and that yes is how healing begins. There comes a moment in every awakening when you realize that fate is not something that happens to you. It's something written through you. You stand at the edge of a story your ancestors began, holding the pen that can finally change its ending. For so long you've lived by inherited scripts, words whispered in childhood, beliefs passed down like heirlooms. We don't talk about that. Be strong. Don't make a scene. These are not rules, they're spells. Spells cast to keep generations safe in times when safety required silence. But you, born into a different age, no longer fit within their smallness. Carl Jung described this turning point as individuation, the sacred process of separating who you truly are from the mask the world taught you to wear. The persona. The persona is the face we craft to belong, the voice we use to be accepted, the shape we shrink into to avoid exile. It once served you. It helped you survive. But survival is not the same as living. The first sign that the mask is cracking is discomfort. You begin to feel divided. One part of you speaking the old language of approval, another whispering the truth your soul refuses to silence. The dissonance grows. You can no longer play the role of the obedient child, the perfect healer, the peacekeeper. The costume itches. The script feels false. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And here you are, standing at the edge of that quote, pen trembling in hand. You've been directed long enough by forces unseen, inherited shame, ancestral guilt, collective expectation. But now, awareness burns through the fog. You begin to write instead of recite. Fate, Jung believed, is simply the unconscious in motion. The moment you awaken to it, the play changes. The old scenes dissolve, not because the world shifts, but because you do. The audience, family, society, even the ghosts of your ancestors may murmur in confusion as you ad-lib new lines. But you keep writing. This pen you hold is not ink, it's awareness. And every word you write from consciousness rewrites centuries of conditioning. When you choose presence over reaction, truth over appeasement, peace over people-pleasing, you are altering the lineage itself. There is power in this moment, not dramatic, but subtle, sacred. It doesn't roar, it hums. The hum of liberation is quiet, because it no longer needs validation. You realize that the point of awakening was never to control life, but to meet it fully, to live with your eyes open. Sometimes this new awareness feels heavy. Seeing the truth means seeing pain, yours and others. But consciousness is not cruelty, it's clarity. You begin to understand why your parents acted as they did, why your ancestors made choices that hurt. They were not villains, they were asleep, reciting scripts written in fear. You are simply the first to awaken mid-performance. The persona begins to dissolve, not all at once, but gently, like morning mist lifting from a field. You feel more transparent, more alive, more yourself. It's disorienting and liberating at once. You no longer chase approval, yet you feel more connected than ever. Because now, for the first time, your connection is rooted in truth. Jung called this the work of the soul, to take the pen of fate and use it not to rewrite history, but to write consciousness into it. And so, at this sacred threshold, you pause, ink trembling, heart steady, and whisper to the generations behind you, the story doesn't end here. It transforms. There are wounds within you that never belonged to you, yet they move as if they were your own. They arrive without warning, a heaviness at the center of your chest, an unexplainable fear at the thought of disappointing others, a grief that rises without story. You search your memories for a cause and find none. That's because the memories are not yours. They are ancestral. Carl Jung wrote that we are all links in an endless chain of generations. What one generation leaves unresolved, the next inherits not as memory but as energy, an emotional DNA that shapes how we love, fear, hide, and hope. This is the ancestral unconscious, a living river of stories flowing beneath the surface of your individual life. Sometimes, this inheritance shows up as patterns that seem older than your logic. People-pleasing that feels instinctive, guilt for resting, a fear of shining too brightly. You may think these are personal flaws, but they are echoes of the past. Survival codes that once protected someone in your lineage who couldn't afford to be seen. A great-grandmother silenced her truth so the family could eat. A grandfather swallowed rage so the home could stay safe. And now, decades later, those emotions still live. Not in their bodies, but in yours. You feel the pulse of their unfinished work. The ache is not punishment, it is summons. The river has chosen you because your consciousness can carry what theirs could not. You are not cursed, you are called. Jung said the psyche is like nature. Whatever is denied returns through another form. Unfelt grief becomes chronic anxiety. Repressed rage becomes exhaustion. Unspoken truth becomes confusion. The psyche will do anything to complete its cycle, so it searches the bloodline for someone awake enough to feel, to name, to free. And that someone is listening right now. This is not a mystical metaphor. Science now calls it epigenetic inheritance. Trauma written into the body's code, waiting to be rewritten by awareness. Your nervous system holds the memory of what your ancestors couldn't express. Each time you breathe through discomfort instead of suppressing it, each time you choose compassion over control, you are not only healing yourself, you are reprogramming generations. This is why your sensitivity feels unbearable at times. It's not weakness, it's intelligence. Your system is decoding the collective field. You are the translator between past and future. You are the bridge where lineage meets light. When you feel an emotion that seems too big for your current moment, pause and ask gently, is this all mine? Often, it isn't. You are feeling the echoes of someone who never got to finish their story. Your tears are doing for them what theirs never could. There is a sacred humility in this realization. You stop resenting your pain and begin to listen to it. You start to understand that your suffering has lineage and therefore meaning. Pain without story becomes unbearable, but pain with purpose becomes prayer. Imagine your ancestors standing behind you, hands on your shoulders, not as burdens but as witnesses. They whisper, "End it here," not in anger but in awareness. And as you breathe, you begin to sense it, that ancient river slowing, softening, clearing, as if relieved that someone finally heard its current. You did not come to suffer what they suffered. You came to liberate what they could not. And that is how healing begins. Not as defiance, but as devotion. Devotion to the unseen. Devotion to the story longing to rest. Devotion to becoming the peace your bloodline never knew. Because when you heal, the river changes direction. It no longer flows backward into repetition. It moves forward, toward freedom. It begins quietly, a flicker of unease when you're surrounded by what everyone else calls normal. You're at a family table, laughter fills the air, stories retold for the 1,000th time. But beneath the surface of comfort, something inside you tightens. You sense the invisible contracts hanging in the room. Don't speak of pain. Don't challenge the silence. Don't disturb what helps us forget. Everyone seems at ease, but you feel a subtle vibration of unrest moving through your chest. You wonder, why can't I just relax like they do? But that question is sacred, because it marks the first tremor of awakening. Carl Jung called this moment the sacred wound of consciousness. It is not anger, it is not rebellion, it's awareness. The soul recognizing that what was once survival now feels suffocating. The family pattern that was meant to protect has become a cage that no longer fits your growth. You start to notice things you once ignored. How love often comes wrapped in guilt. How strength is celebrated only when it hides vulnerability. How silence has been mistaken for peace. These realizations sting because they expose the emotional architecture of your lineage, the unspoken rules that shaped your identity. And though you try to play along, something inside you can't go back to sleep. You catch yourself mirroring old patterns, forcing a smile, dismissing your truth, and feel an ache in your throat, as if your soul itself refuses to lie. This discomfort is not rejection of your family. It's a refusal to abandon yourself. Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Pain in this sense is not punishment. It's passage. It's the pressure that cracks open perception. It's the call to move from loyalty to truth. When you begin to see what others normalize, you carry a strange loneliness. You no longer fit the roles assigned to you. The peacekeeper, the quiet one, the achiever, the invisible one. You start to see the hidden cost of belonging, how often connection was built on suppression. And yet, even as isolation creeps in, something luminous grows beneath it. It's the first flame of inner freedom, fragile, flickering, but alive. You begin to understand that you were never meant to destroy your lineage, but to cleanse it through awareness. You're not rejecting them, you're refining the inheritance. You're pruning the family tree not to sever its roots, but to let light in where shadows once ruled. This is the sacred discomfort Jung spoke of, the threshold where consciousness begins. It feels like estrangement, but it's evolution. It feels like guilt, but it's guidance. It feels like pain, but it's purpose. Every time you feel that tension, when someone repeats an old story and your body quietly says, "No more," when laughter feels hollow and your silence feels loud, when you see patterns disguised as traditions, pause. You are witnessing the beginning of liberation. Your awareness itself is medicine. It doesn't need to fix or confront. It only needs to see clearly. For awareness dissolves what denial sustains. And with each moment you choose truth over tradition, you honor your lineage more deeply than any imitation ever could. This is the first sign that you came to close a cycle. You can no longer call dysfunction normal. You can no longer pretend peace where pain sleeps. You are not judging them, you are awakening for them, so that what once hid in shadow can finally be held in light. You are the hinge between what was wounded and what can be whole. And that hinge, quietly turning inside you, is how the cycle begins to close. Every family, every lineage, lives under the weight of unspoken agreements. Contracts no one remembers signing, but everyone keeps. They are written not in ink but in behavior, in the pauses before telling the truth, in the smiles that hide disappointment, in the instinct to apologize for existing too loudly. You may not see these contracts, but you feel them. They live in the tension behind politeness, in the careful tone used to avoid conflict, in the way love sometimes feels like obligation wearing perfume. Carl Jung called this the family unconscious, the invisible field where ancestral emotion shapes our choices without consent. It is where guilt becomes currency, and silence becomes inheritance. It's where phrases like, "That's just how we are," guard the gates of deeper truth. When you begin to awaken, these contracts start to dissolve. You hear the patterns in real time, the jokes that carry pain, the compliments that conceal control. The way, "We're fine," hides generations of suppression. And though part of you wants to play along, another part cannot. You've begun to see that every false peace costs authenticity. Every unspoken truth drains life force. It hurts, because awareness always does. But this is sacred pain. It is not the ache of guilt. It is the ache of breaking free. The first instinct of the awakening soul is to fix, to explain, to heal, to bring light to the table. But remember Jung's wisdom. One does not heal by forcing light into others, but by illuminating one's own darkness. You do not need to convince your family to awaken. You only need to stop renewing the contracts that keep everyone asleep. This may look like subtle acts, choosing silence over false agreement, leaving the room instead of absorbing tension, answering with presence instead of performance. Each quiet refusal is a clause rewritten in your lineage. At first, they will feel it before they understand it. Your calm will unsettle them. Your boundaries will sound like rejection. Your authenticity will echo as rebellion. But the deeper truth is this: you are not breaking connection. You are purifying it. To awaken inside the family system is to become the lightning rod through which truth re-enters the bloodline. It's not glamorous. It's not easy. It's trembling hands and deep breaths at dinner tables. It's learning that love without truth is bondage. Jung taught that the unconscious seeks wholeness through projection. So when you stop participating in the pattern surfaces for everyone to see. Your absence from dysfunction becomes revelation. And yes, they might resist it. Not because they are cruel, but because their nervous systems equate truth with danger. They learned long ago that safety was silence, and now your voice threatens that fragile illusion. So stand gently but firmly. You are not fighting them, you are freeing them. By saying no with compassion, you are whispering to the ancestors, "We don't have to live this way anymore." Every time you choose authenticity over guilt, the lineage exhales. Every time you name what was hidden, generations unclench. You are not just healing forward, you are healing backward. Think of it this way: your life is a bridge between the unspoken past and the unborn future. Every word you speak in truth strengthens that bridge. Every silence born from fear weakens it. You were chosen to carry consciousness into a lineage that forgot how to feel. That's not a burden, it's a privilege. Because in healing yourself, you become the prayer your ancestors never knew how to say. The contract is void the moment you remember you never signed it. And the freedom that follows, that is how a lineage breathes again. You are not here to cut down your family tree. You are here to let the light in. Healing does not mean disowning your roots. It means pruning them with reverence, so that what once grew in shadow can finally blossom in truth. For generations, the tree of your lineage has survived storms by closing its canopy, tightening around pain, shielding itself with silence. Each branch learned to bend under weight, to grow inward instead of outward. And so love became tangled with guilt, strength with suppression, loyalty with exhaustion. But something in you refuses to keep growing in darkness. You feel the heaviness, the lack of air, the ache of roots starved for sun. And so, slowly, gently, you begin to prune. Carl Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." To prune is to accept that not every tradition, not every habit, deserves to live forever. It's to admit that what was once necessary for survival can now hinder growth. You do not prune in anger, you prune in awareness. You trim what no longer serves love in its truest form. You remove the branches of guilt that block light, the patterns of silence that strangle truth, the leaves of pretense that pretend peace but hide pain. Pruning is not destruction, it's devotion. It's the gardener's act of faith that new growth will come once space is made for it. And make no mistake, pruning hurts. Every time you set a boundary, a voice rises. How dare you? Every time you choose rest over obligation, another whispers, you've changed. Yes, you have, because you're becoming light. Awakening always threatens the ecosystem of the old, but just as a tree must shed leaves to survive winter, so must you release what no longer feeds your soul. And when spring returns, and it will, you'll see that what fell away was never lost. It returned to soil, nourishing new life. You will notice that your relationships change. Some branches fall, some stretch toward you with newfound openness. Others remain still, unsure. That's okay. Healing rearranges the forest. You may stand for a while feeling both exposed and alone, but look closer. Sunlight is pouring in through the spaces where density once reigned. You are breathing differently now. The air tastes clearer. The silence feels alive. This is the paradox of healing. To love your lineage more deeply, you must stop confusing loyalty with limitation. You do not dishonor your roots by growing beyond them. You honor them by proving they can produce light. Jung believed that the unconscious compensates what consciousness neglects. So as you prune, the old wounds of the family will surface, not to punish, but to balance. Tears may come for sorrows unspoken. Memories may rise that aren't fully yours. Let them. They are not intrusions, they are releases. Each emotion freed is another branch allowed to breathe. You might wonder, when will the pruning end? But healing is not an event, it's a rhythm. The tree grows and sheds, eternally cycling toward greater clarity. Over time, you'll begin to see beauty in what once felt like loss. Because pruning reveals form. It lets you see the architecture of what you are, strong, rooted, radiant. You'll notice how your own stillness invites others to grow. Some may resist, others may follow. But even if no one else does, the light remains. You'll walk through your family home and feel both grief and gratitude. Grief for what was never said, gratitude for what is now possible. Because you are no longer carrying the lineage as a burden. You are carrying it consciously, with truth. And as sunlight spills through the gaps, you realize this. You are not the break in the family tree. You are the clearing that allows it to thrive. There are moments when a story reaches you and it cuts deeper than it should. Someone mentions a loss you never knew, a tragedy you never witnessed, and yet your chest tightens as if you've lived it 1,000 times. A lump rises in your throat for reasons logic cannot explain. That is not coincidence, that is inheritance. Carl Jung called this the ancestral unconscious, the layer of psyche that extends beyond personal memory, where the emotional residue of generations still vibrates. You are not imagining it. You are remembering it, but with a soul older than your name. The body remembers what the mind cannot. Your trembling hands are not weakness. They are wisdom awakening. They are the uncried tears of your lineage searching for release. You are the living altar through which the unspoken is being given voice. This recognition is profound, but it can also be disorienting. You may wonder, why am I so sensitive? Because sensitivity is the instrument of healing. Where others have gone numb, you have remained open. And to be open in a world built on denial is revolutionary. Jung taught that the soul of a family seeks equilibrium through the consciousness of one awake member. The unexpressed grief, the buried shame, the silence that calcified into habit. These forces seek restoration. They do not punish, they seek participation. They want to be witnessed, not solved. When you feel sorrow without story, don't rush to define it. Sit with it. Listen. It might not be about you at all. It might be your grandmother's tears for a love she never spoke of, your father's anger at the dreams he was never allowed to chase, a collective ache for the generations that had to choose survival over authenticity. Your compassion is the key that unlocks their confinement. By feeling what they could not, you loosen what has been frozen for centuries. That shiver down your spine, that sudden urge to weep, that wordless melancholy. These are the soul's way of saying, we can stop now. To be the one who feels is both burden and blessing, because to feel is to cleanse, and every emotion you allow to move through you transforms inherited pain into presence. This is alchemy, grief turning into gold, shadow turning into awareness. The world may not understand this work. It happens quietly, without ceremony or applause, but its effects ripple through generations. One conscious breath in your present rewrites the DNA of your past. One act of forgiveness frees both ancestors and descendants. When you light a candle, speak a truth, release a tear. Imagine them around you, not as ghosts, but as witnesses finally at peace. They are not haunting you. They are handing you the final line of their unfinished story. Jung said, "The psyche is not limited by the skin. Our souls interweave through time, seeking completion through one another. And so the pain you feel without context is not intrusion, it's invitation. An invitation to end what others began but could not complete. It takes courage to feel what you did not cause, but that courage is consciousness itself. The soul chose you not because you are stronger, but because you are ready. And when the ache comes, the heaviness that seems too vast for one life, place your hand on your heart and whisper, I hear you, I see you, I free you. You are not broken. You are the bridge, the one through whom silence turns to song, grief turns to grace, and inheritance turns to illumination. Because you did not come to carry their pain, you came to end its repetition. This is the second sign. You came to close a cycle. When your empathy reaches beyond your own timeline, and your tears water the roots of generations. You are the memory made conscious, the one through whom the family finally exhales. You may not remember the stories, but your body does. Sometimes it shows up as pressure behind your eyes for no reason, as an ache in your ribs when someone mentions loss, as a heaviness that arrives before words can explain why. This is not coincidence, it is conversation. Your soul is in dialogue with history. Carl Jung described the ancestral unconscious as a living organism seeking balance through awareness. It's not a graveyard of memories, it's a pulse, an unfinished heartbeat echoing through generations, searching for resonance in someone who can finally listen. That listener is you. When the tears come without story, they are not weakness, they are release, old energy finding its way home through your openness. You are the vessel through which the river of grief flows clean again. This process is sacred because it cannot be forced. You cannot schedule ancestral healing the way you schedule your day. It moves when it's ready, often in the quiet moments, during music that stirs your chest, in dreams that replay lives you've never lived, in déjà vu that feels like remembering. When it comes, don't rush to interpret. Feel first, name later. Your ancestors are not asking for analysis. They are asking for presence. They don't need you to fix their pain, only to feel it consciously, so that it no longer hides in shadow. Every tear you shed with awareness becomes prayer. Every breath through sorrow becomes ceremony. This is the kind of healing Jung meant when he said, emotion is the chief source of consciousness. Feeling deeply is not regression, it's evolution. Think of it this way. For centuries, your lineage survived by suppressing. Someone had to hold composure so the children could eat. Someone had to hide despair behind humor so the house could stay upright. Someone had to silence grief so life could go on. Their strategy saved them, but the body keeps the score across generations. So the grief they buried now surfaces in you, not to destroy, but to complete its cycle. It is not personal, it is purposeful. You are the consciousness that transforms what was endured into what is integrated. You may feel overwhelmed. The energy rising through your chest can feel like drowning. But remember, you are not sinking, you are surfacing. The pain is not new, it's just finally visible. When it feels like too much, touch something grounding, your heart, your breath, the earth itself, and remind yourself, I am the witness, not the wound. That single awareness changes everything. Because the moment you observe the grief instead of drowning in it, you shift its nature. It no longer owns you. It moves through you, cleansed by compassion. This is the hidden architecture of collective healing. When one person feels consciously, an entire bloodline begins to breathe differently. Science calls it epigenetic repatterning. Jung called it the redemption of the ancestors. Both describe the same miracle: awareness rewriting inheritance. There will be days when it feels like too much to carry, but pause and sense. You are not carrying it alone. You are surrounded by invisible witnesses whispering, "Thank you for feeling what we could not." Their gratitude becomes strength in your bones. Their relief becomes softness in your breath. Their story, once bound by silence, becomes song in your heartbeat. And so you cry, not for them, but with them. Each tear is an offering, a baptism of the bloodline. This is how ancestral healing looks. Not dramatic, not mystical, but human. Tears that have waited centuries finally finding a face. Jung believed that what is unintegrated in one generation will seek integration in the next. You are that integration. You are the living bridge through which past becomes present and pain becomes prayer. Do not underestimate the quiet of this work. The world won't see it, but the invisible world celebrates it. For in your tears, something ancient finally rests. And when the sobbing subsides, you feel it. A softness where tension once lived. A silence that hums like peace. That is not emptiness. That is completion. You have not merely survived what they passed down. You have transmuted it. This is the third movement of the cycle's closing. To allow the river of grief to pass through you, until what once felt like weight becomes water, and what once felt like burden becomes blessing. You have probably felt it for as long as you can remember. A quiet dissonance that set you apart, even among those you love most. You laughed at the same jokes, followed the same rules, wore the same expressions. Yet something in you always stood slightly outside the circle, observing. It wasn't rebellion. It wasn't arrogance. It was awareness. From childhood, you sensed the undercurrents, the words not said, the emotions carefully folded beneath politeness. You noticed the strain in your parents' smiles, the weight in a room after conflict, the way "we're fine" meant "we're not fine, but we don't talk about it." Carl Jung called this the path of the individual who must awaken within the collective. He wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But that privilege often begins as loneliness, because to see what others cannot, or will not, see is to walk a road few can follow. You learned early that your perception made people uncomfortable. You asked questions that didn't fit inside small talk. You felt emotions too large for the moment. You sensed truths that others preferred to leave buried. So, to keep the peace, you dimmed your light. You rehearsed normality. You mimicked indifference. But pretending not to see is a violence against the soul. Over time, you realized the cost. Every time you silenced your intuition, a part of you dimmed. Every time you agreed to the untrue, your vitality faded. The body, honest as ever, began to protest. Tension, fatigue, anxiety, restlessness, symptoms of a spirit forced to live someone else's definition of safety. And then, something shifted. Maybe it was heartbreak, maybe a loss, maybe just the unbearable weight of pretending. Whatever the cause, you stopped performing. You began to choose authenticity over acceptance, and that decision, small, private, invisible to others, was the moment the cycle started to end. Your difference is not a flaw. It is an evolutionary signal. You were born into this family with a different vibration, not to judge them, but to change the frequency of the story itself. Jung believed that evolution of consciousness happens through individuals who dare to live their truth amidst collective sleep. That is you. Yes, it can feel isolating. You might long for a sense of belonging that never arrives. But understand this, you are not meant to fit in. You are meant to expand what "in" even means. Your presence alone disrupts the field, even when you say nothing. People feel your calm and call it distance. They sense your clarity and call it arrogance, but you've simply stopped mistaking chaos for connection. To walk awake among the sleeping is both ache and honor. The ache comes from seeing what others ignore. The honor comes from knowing you are the hinge through which awareness enters. Jung said that the one who individuates must often leave the tribe, not to abandon it, but to lead it forward through example. You are that example, even if no one names it. Each time you live with integrity, you broadcast possibility into the unconscious field. Each moment you stay true to what you feel, you light a lantern in the dark corridor of your lineage. This doesn't mean you are superior. It means you are aware, and awareness carries responsibility. To embody truth without superiority, to hold compassion without collapse. Your energy feels foreign to some because it carries information from the future, a blueprint of wholeness your ancestors dreamed but never realized. You are the answer to their unfinished prayers. You are the one they hoped would finally live free. So when you feel different, remind yourself, I am not separate, I am pioneering. When you feel misunderstood, remember, I am not broken, I am becoming. And when loneliness comes, as it will, let it remind you that you are walking the narrow path of transformation. The world does not need more sameness, it needs coherence. And coherence begins when one person dares to be real. You are that person. You are the quiet revolution in your family's bloodline. You are the one who looked at normal and gently said, no more. This is the third sign that you came to close a cycle. Your soul no longer fits inside inherited forms. You do not belong because you are meant to build what will one day feel like home. Not just for you, but for everyone who follows. Different is not broken. Different is the beginning of wholeness. There comes a moment when the ache to belong transforms into the call to become. For years, belonging was your compass. The desire to fit, to be loved, to be chosen. You softened your edges to match the room. You learned the language of approval, the art of apology, the choreography of keeping peace. You believed connection required shrinking. But Jung wrote, the individual who wishes to awaken must be prepared to stand alone. That aloneness is not exile, it is initiation. The journey from belonging to becoming begins the moment you stop negotiating your authenticity for acceptance. At first, this shift feels like loss. You feel the distance grow. Conversations once easy now feel shallow. Laughter rings with a subtle hollowness. You wonder if you're the problem, if growth has made you cold. But what you're really feeling is expansion. Your soul has outgrown the house of imitation. It is terrifying and liberating at once, to step beyond the boundaries of inherited comfort into the vastness of your own truth. You realize that belonging built on self-abandonment is not belonging at all. It is emotional debt. Every yes that silenced your truth became interest owed to the soul. Now, the debt has come due. You begin to see that belonging was never meant to be traded for authenticity. It was meant to arise from it. True connection doesn't require you to hide your light. It needs your light to recognize itself. Jung described individuation as a return to the self, the eternal core beneath roles, identities, and expectations. That return requires shedding the personas that once kept you safe but now keep you small. The masks begin to crack. The caretaker, the achiever, the peacekeeper, the invisible one. You feel their weight fall from you like old skin. Without those masks, you feel naked, raw, exposed, uncertain. But nakedness is honesty. Honesty is freedom. And freedom, though lonely at first, is the most intimate relationship you'll ever have with life. You start making choices differently. Instead of asking, will they approve? You ask, does this feel true? You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for existing. You begin speaking from your center, slowly, quietly, with conviction. And the world rearranges around your clarity. Not everyone will like this new you. Some will call it selfishness. Others will say you've changed. They're right. You have. Because for the first time, you are not living to be understood. You are living to be whole. Jung once said that the self is both personal and cosmic, an inner universe seeking outward expression. As you return to that self, you begin to feel it, a new gravity pulling you toward purpose, a knowing that no external belonging can replace inner coherence. You start to see that becoming yourself is not about rebellion, it's about remembrance. You're not creating something new, you're remembering what was buried beneath survival. The more you become, the more naturally your life aligns. You attract different people, those who don't demand performance, who find peace in your presence, who speak truth as fluently as breath. These are your mirrors, your tribe of resonance. Belonging returns, but it feels different now. It's no longer a cage, it's communion. This is how lineage transforms, not by war but by example. When one member of a family chooses authenticity over approval, they alter the emotional DNA of everyone connected to them. Your courage becomes their permission. Your becoming becomes their map. You no longer seek belonging as a destination. You carry it as a state. It lives in your breath, in your boundaries, in your ability to stay present when others retreat into denial. You have become the sanctuary you once searched for. This is the fourth sign that you came to close a cycle, when your need to belong dissolves into the calling to become. You realize that home was never a place, it was the truth inside you, waiting to be lived. And as you stand rooted in that truth, calm, clear, unhidden, you feel something ancient shift beneath your feet. The lineage exhales. The cycle bends toward closure, not through confrontation, but through coherence. Because one awakened soul does more for the family than 1,000 apologies ever could. You are that soul. You are the bridge from belonging to becoming. At first, your decisions seem small. A boundary here, an honest no there. A moment of silence where you would once have rushed to fill the air. But somewhere in the unseen, these tiny acts begin to echo. Something shifts in the invisible fabric of your lineage, as if the very soil beneath your family tree starts to loosen. Carl Jung said that the individual who becomes conscious does not stand apart from humanity, but alters the collective field through awareness. Every time you act from truth instead of programming, you send a vibration through that field. The energy you release travels not just forward into the future, but backward into the past, touching the hearts of those who once lived asleep. You may not see it, but you feel it, subtle, like a breeze from nowhere. You sense a lightening, a peace that was not there before. This is how ancestral transformation happens. One conscious choice reverberates across generations. Perhaps your grandmother, who never had the freedom to say no, finds release through your refusal. Perhaps a father's unspoken shame dissolves because you finally speak what he could not. Perhaps a child yet unborn will breathe easier because you chose to stop pretending. You begin to realize that you are not just healing your life, you are changing the emotional climate of your bloodline. Each decision to stay in integrity is a ripple of restoration moving through time. At first, you may feel unworthy of this task. Who am I to heal what came before? But remember Jung's insight. Consciousness itself is the healer. You are not fixing the past, you are bringing it into awareness. The moment you see clearly, you redeem what was once lived unconsciously. Your lineage begins to respond, sometimes gently, sometimes chaotically. Old conflicts may surface, hidden truths may come to light, relationships may rearrange. These are not setbacks. They are signs that the system is recalibrating to the new frequency of your truth. You start to notice strange coincidences, synchronicities that feel like winks from the invisible world. A dream about an ancestor you barely knew. A song that seems to answer your thoughts. A sudden warmth in your chest when you speak with honesty, as if unseen witnesses are whispering, "Yes, that's it. Keep going." Jung called this the language of the unconscious, symbols communicating between realms. Your life becomes that communication, a living bridge between the past and the possible. There is a solemn beauty in this awareness. You understand that healing isn't loud. It's the quiet decision made in the privacy of the heart that sends shockwaves through centuries. When you choose to love without losing yourself, you correct generations of self-sacrifice. When you forgive without forgetting, you rewrite the law of vengeance into the law of vision. And yet, there will be moments when it feels like too much. You'll sense the weight of hundreds of years leaning on your shoulders, the ache of souls who never had the chance to finish their work. In those moments, breathe. Remember, you are not carrying their pain. You are carrying their potential. You were never meant to drag their suffering. You were meant to deliver their evolution. Think of yourself as a tuning fork. When you vibrate in truth, everything around you eventually harmonizes. Some harmonies take time, others never arrive. But that's not your burden. You are the note of consciousness introduced into an old song. The rest of the melody will adjust when it's ready. Over time, you will sense it, a quiet grace replacing the old heaviness. Family gatherings may feel lighter. Conversations once tense may soften. Even the memories of the dead begin to feel gentler, as if something within them has finally been forgiven. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation as service to the collective. Your awakening is not selfish. It is the offering your ancestors have been waiting for. Not apology, not rebellion, but awareness. You don't need to prove your impact. Existence itself responds to coherence. Each time you choose truth over guilt, compassion over control, presence over performance, the universe takes note. The field rearranges, the lineage realigns, and in a quiet, timeless way, the past bows to you. Not because you are superior, but because you finally listened. This is the fourth sign that you came to close a cycle, when you begin to sense that your every act of integrity heals more than just your own story. Your choices ripple backward, forward, and outward. They are not merely personal decisions. They are ancestral revolutions disguised as ordinary moments. You are no longer a continuation of the past. You are its correction. There comes a quiet moment in every awakening when you begin to look around your life and see it differently. Not with judgment, but with clarity. Objects, habits, conversations, even relationships that once felt essential now feel heavy, stale, outdated. The air around them thickens. You sense it before you can name it, the need to cleanse. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And this is how fate begins to shift, not in grand gestures, but in subtle purifications. You start with the visible, the cluttered shelves, the overfilled drawers, the clothes that no longer carry your energy. You touch them and realize they belong to an older version of you, one who survived through attachment, so you let them go. And as you do, something invisible loosens too. The outer cleansing mirrors an inner one, as if your soul were whispering, "Make space, I'm coming through." This urge to cleanse is not aesthetic, it's alchemical. The psyche, once cluttered with inherited noise, begins to seek simplicity. You feel drawn to stillness, to quiet mornings, to fewer words but deeper meanings. You no longer crave more, you crave real. Jung saw this instinct as a natural stage of individuation, the shedding of what no longer serves the evolution of the self. It is not rejection, it is refinement. You are not discarding life, you are distilling it. Sometimes this cleansing begins with your environment. Other times, it begins with your emotions. You notice how certain conversations drain you, how certain people only know how to find you through pain. You begin to ask, "Is this mine?" And often the answer is no. The awareness can be painful, because cleansing means confronting all that is lived rent-free in your energy. The unspoken obligations, the guilt disguised as loyalty, the subtle expectation to stay small so others can stay comfortable. And yet, you know what happens if you don't let go. Your spirit suffocates beneath the weight of inherited noise. Letting go feels like betrayal at first. You may fear being called selfish, distant, cold, but remember, to heal, you must stop mistaking self-erasure for love. Carl Jung believed that what we repress becomes our shadow, and shadow is nothing but unlived truth. Cleansing, then, is an act of love toward your shadow, not a rejection, but an integration. You stand before your own history and whisper, "I see you, I honor you, but you no longer define me." You may find yourself craving solitude, not isolation but space, sacred silence where your energy can settle into coherence. At first, the quiet feels empty, foreign, almost frightening. But slowly it begins to hum. You realize this stillness isn't the absence of life, it's the presence of self. From this quiet, new clarity arises. You see which relationships thrive in authenticity and which only survive in confusion. You stop forcing what resists alignment. You stop chasing what constantly runs. You no longer explain your boundaries. You embody them. Cleansing also happens in how you think. You begin to catch inherited beliefs mid-sentence. The inner voices that say, "Don't rest, you haven't earned it," or "Keep giving, they'll love you then." You pause, and instead of obeying, you breathe. Each breath becomes rebellion against unconscious repetition. This process is not glamorous. There will be tears, resistance, even guilt. But cleansing is not about perfection. It's about honesty. It's the slow, sacred disentanglement of your soul from everything that keeps it dim. You are not becoming empty. You are becoming clear. And clarity is the birthplace of freedom. Over time, you'll notice that as your inner world purifies, your outer world follows suit. Peace replaces performance. Silence replaces noise. Presence replaces panic. This is the fifth sign that you came to close a cycle. When the urge to cleanse arises, not from fatigue but from alignment. When simplicity feels more sacred than stimulation. When saying less feels truer than explaining more. You are no longer dragging the debris of your lineage forward. You are walking lighter, freer, luminous with truth. Jung taught that transformation begins not when we add more, but when we remove what is false. And in the clearing that follows, the soul finally has room to breathe. So let it. Let the old fall away, quietly, gracefully. Let the silence expand, because the emptiness you fear is not loss. It's the space where your next becoming is already taking shape. After every ending, there comes a choice: to close the heart or to let it remain open despite all it has endured. Most choose closure. They mistake hardness for strength, detachment for peace. But you, even after all the betrayals, absences, and unspoken goodbyes, have chosen to stay soft. That choice, invisible to the world, is the bravest of all. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. To accept oneself is to stay open to life, to the ache, the wonder, the risk of love returning. Because closing might keep you safe, but it will also keep you small. You've learned this through experience. You know how easy it is to armor the heart, to use intellect as shield, humor as camouflage, silence as control. These defenses once kept you from shattering, but now you feel how they keep you from living. The fortress that once protected you has become a prison. So you begin to practice the art of soft strength. You breathe through the urge to retreat. You let tenderness return, even when it trembles. You allow yourself to care without collapsing, to give without losing, to love without rescuing. This is not naivete, this is mastery. You've learned that openness doesn't mean being unguarded. It means being grounded in self-awareness, so that love flows freely without draining you. It's the calm center of a storm, still, steady, unshaken. Jung wrote that transformation doesn't happen by rejecting darkness, but by integrating it. The same applies to love. You've stopped running from pain and started holding it. When heartbreak comes, you don't deny it, you witness it. When loneliness visits, you sit beside it. This is how the alchemy of healing works, not by closing, but by remaining conscious inside what once overwhelmed you. The soul matures when it learns to stay present through the full range of feeling. To love again after disappointment. To trust again after betrayal. To walk into intimacy without armor. To open the door knowing that yes, you could be hurt again, and still saying, "I choose to love anyway." This openness radiates differently now. It's quieter, deeper, less desperate. It doesn't seek validation. It offers presence. You no longer chase intensity, you invite resonance. You've stopped confusing chaos with connection, attention with affection, closure with peace. Your softness is not weakness, it's wisdom wearing gentleness as armor. Because you've discovered what few ever do, that vulnerability is not exposure, but power. It is the strength of one who has walked through fire and no longer fears being burned. You've come to understand that to close the heart is to repeat the pattern, to pass down emotional exile disguised as strength. But to stay open is to end it. To be the one who says, "The pain ends here, but love does not." And as you hold this truth, something ancient begins to dissolve. The inherited fear of feeling, the generational reflex to harden, all of it begins to thaw. You are teaching your lineage, both living and dead, that safety is no longer found in silence, but in sincerity. You may feel fragile at times, moments when your openness aches like a fresh wound. But look closely, that ache is aliveness. Your heart has not closed, it has expanded. And within that expansion lies a peace that no armor could ever offer. To stay open, in a world that teaches you to close, is to embody what Jung called the self, the union of opposites, courage and tenderness, grief and grace, power and surrender. You are that union now, the living paradox of a healed heart. This is the sixth sign that you came to close a cycle, when your strength expresses itself not as defense, but as openness. When your love no longer depends on who receives it, but flows simply because that is your nature. You are not broken. You are whole enough to stay soft. You are not naive. You are wise enough to love again. And in that choice, it becomes the bridge between what once hurt and what can now heal. You are that bridge. You are that heart. And the world, seen and unseen, breathes easier because you chose not to close. At last you begin to see the pattern clearly. The way suffering travels through generations like a hidden current, each life repeating what the last could not resolve. Anger disguised as duty, silence mistaken for peace, love that releases without rejecting. You start to understand that your task was never to burn the They are no longer symbols of pain, but teachers of endurance. Their limitations taught you to grow past your own. Their silence trained you to find your voice. Their suffering carved space for your strength. This is the paradox of awakening. The deeper you heal, the more tenderly you love those who hurt you. Because you no longer love from need, you love from knowing. You start to see the threads of the lineage as sacred, not because they are perfect, but because they are human. You can hold both truth and compassion in the same breath. You no longer glorify the past, nor condemn it. You honor it as soil, rich, complex, necessary for the new life taking root through you. When you say, "This ends with me," it is not a sentence of exile. It is a declaration of evolution. You are not cutting yourself off from your roots. You are returning them to light. Jung believed that every soul participates in the It doesn't look dramatic. It looks like gentleness returning where hardness once lived. It looks like truth spoken softly, boundaries held kindly, forgiveness offered silently. You stop asking for understanding. You stop waiting for apologies. You simply walk in peace. And the moment you do, the entire lineage bows. Because through you, the story finally exhales. The war between past and future dissolves, and what remains is only love, the pure current beneath all suffering. This is not the end of your lineage. It is its liberation. There is a silence that follows healing, not empty but full. It feels like the air after a storm, still carrying the scent of rain. You can sense the change before you can describe it. The old tension is gone. The ache that once defined you has softened into something sacred, awareness. Carl Jung called this stage individuation fulfilled, the moment when the unconscious no longer governs your life because you have befriended it. You are no longer at war with your past, you walk beside it. The patterns you once fought now appear as teachers. The wounds that once consumed you now shimmer as portals. Every pain you've endured has been transfigured into understanding. You no longer identify as the one who suffered, but as the one who saw. The cycle has closed, not through destruction but through consciousness. And yet, in its closing, something new begins. Because the end of one cycle is always the beginning of another, higher one. A spiral of evolution rather than a loop of repetition. You are no longer trapped in fate, you are shaping destiny. You begin to notice this shift in small human ways. Your breath feels lighter, your relationships are gentler, your words carry less defense, more depth. You listen differently, not to respond but to understand. You move through the world with quiet authority, not from superiority but from sovereignty. This is the essence of Jung's teaching. When the unconscious becomes conscious, life itself becomes dialogue instead of drama. And you, once haunted by the noise of generations, now speak that dialogue fluently. You see your parents as souls on their own journey, no longer villains or heroes. You see your ancestors not as burdens, but as blueprints. You see yourself not as an accident, but as a continuation of something sacred that has finally found its way into awareness. The story did not end with you. It evolved through you. Your healing was never about perfection. It was about remembering. Remembering that every human life is an unfinished poem, written across lifetimes, across bloodlines, waiting for someone to finish a verse in truth. That someone was you. The loop is closed. The lineage rests. But the path remains open for those who come after to walk in greater peace, guided by the light you restored. And so, you find yourself standing at the threshold of a new life, one that no longer needs chaos to feel alive. Your nervous system hums with stillness. Your mind feels spacious, uncluttered. Your heart, open but discerning, moves with the rhythm of truth. This is what Jung called the self returned to the center. No longer fractured by the collective, you have become a coherent field, a soul aligned with its own gravity. You realize that healing was never about becoming someone new, but remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget. All along, the work was not to escape the story, but to see it clearly enough to love it whole. And now you do. You love it all. The beauty and the brutality, the silence and the song, the wound and the wonder. Because everything that once broke you has become part of your wholeness. When you look back, you no longer see suffering. You see symbols. You see meaning. You see your life not as a series of accidents, but as a carefully crafted initiation, one that brought you home to yourself. And that is the true purpose of closing the cycle. Not to erase what came before, but to live from a consciousness that no longer repeats it. You are no longer the echo. You are the voice. No longer the wound. You are the wisdom it became. And as you walk forward, lighter, freer, awake, you understand what every awakened soul eventually learns, that healing is not the end of the story. It is the